So I have been looking for a guide or a video on this topic, how to set your garrison, and I literally found nothing. And since you guys asked, here comes Timmy with the best episode and the best tips in how to set your wall garrison, because if you think that using your strongest march as a wall garrison, it's a good idea, you're about to be shocked. Because as always, my videos are backed by the numbers and the explanation. And this video is no different. So let me explain. We start with this building here, the parade ground. You click on it and you press this E button over here. And what are you seeing? I have 400,000 archers. I have almost 400,000 swordsmen. Sure, I have 1.2 million Pikemens because I use my Pikemens a lot. But I also have on top 650,000 Cavalry. So if I were to put in my case my Cyrus setup, I'm gonna get a great performance for 1,172,000 units, but I'm gonna get extremely bad performance when it comes down to my Cavalry, swordsmen, and archers. And they are, by the way, 1.4 million troops. But let me show you something else. Because if we have a closer look at my Pikemen setup, there is one important thing which we have to mention, and that's the gear. Because the gear will only gonna buff Pikemens. Sure, you're gonna see something interesting, that the gems actually work for the other unit types, but not just that. Actually, if we take this setup and set, for example, archers, this is gonna work and I'm gonna show you, but the problem is gonna be the gear. And the adornment actually, because if we have a look at my adornment, it has two parts. This is the one which we're not gonna buff my archers, cavalry or swordsmen, but the attribute will gonna work. So let's take the supply depot for a second and re-challenge it, but this time I'm gonna attack it with my pikeman setup, but this time you're seeing here, I'm gonna use archers. So you're gonna see also in the battle report that the skills are actually working, but the stats are far lower. So let's have a closer look at the battle, shouldn't take that long. And definitely this opens up a very small window on how to use Cyrus, or probably use it with different unit types in very isolated cases. Because yeah, this very powerful counter-attack buff. So as you can see, I'm doing pretty solid damage, but we're gonna have a closer look a second at the stats, and you're also gonna see that the skills are actually working even though the units are archers in this case. So let's wait for this to finish very fast. Okay, it's kind of finished right now, but I have to wait to generate that battle report. So wait for you just a second. I'm gonna speed up actually. So there you go, that's a victory. Let's have a look at the battle report generated. Here it is. Let's go to the attributes. And here you're gonna see the following thing. First of all, obviously the stats are far lower, like the defense and the attack, for example, because of the gear. And if we have a look at the details, sure, did that work with archers? Of course it did. So you see also the damage. So a very interesting side note, by the way. So good, let's go back to the defense, because I have used my farm to hit my account to show you exactly with numbers what happens if I'm gonna set my garrison like this. And let's have a look at the battle report. And that's the case right here. You see my defense. Of course, obviously the result is not the point here. The point is actually having a look at my stats. So we have a look at the buffs, which should be actually called stats. Here, what are you seeing? Very high stats, actually my pikemens. But have a look on the stats of my swordsmen, of my cavalry, and of my archers. They are pretty low, because only a couple of gems, like the health, which I have on this setup, actually benefits them. So let's change my defense and use now the best defense possible. And hit again. So in this case, I'm going to take Buriga off and I'm going to take Mansa Musa off. And here is actually depending which of the other three type of units left. In this case, cavalry, archers, or swordsmen, you have more units from. And of course, what are the commanders do you have? Not heroes, commanders, because in general, the heroes which you are using as commanders will always going to have the best gear, gems, horses, adornments, and be more powerful. So in this case, I'm looking actually for Mr. Lubu. And as a third hero, I'm going to use another commander. And that's going to be Mulan. And you know what? Let's now hit again my base and check the battle report. And this is the one. While obviously the result here is not relevant, what you see here is my garrison. And let's have a closer look at the buffs or at the stats, because now you're gonna see these values overall being higher. Now let's put these two values back to back and let me explain you why this is actually the best defense. So here we have both defenses back to back, and let's have a closer look at the stats difference. So in a case of me using purely the Pikemen setup, you see me actually having an attack of 659.3%. Well, if I use this setup right here, I actually have 713% attack. Now why is that? Well, I guess we have to have a closer look at my Lubu. Or to be more precise, we actually have to have a look at the gems. So have a look at these gems. Our old unit type attack. And this will gonna apply for all units. Same goes, of course, for this gem over here. Obviously, the secondary strike gems won't work on Pikemans or swordsmen. But the might gems, for example, will also gonna work. Now, what other number is actually higher? Let's have a look at the defense. As on my Pikemen, with a pure Pikemen setup, I have a 561.3 might defense, while here you see a value of 575.3% might defense. Now, also at the same time, the health values overall are higher. So yeah, beautiful people, here you see the difference between using my best setup in the garrison. Maybe for you it's a different setup, but it's actually a march for the same unit type versus the best way in which you can set up your garrison. Or in other words, watch my videos and stop underperforming, because the difference is massive. So yeah, use your strongest commanders, especially if you have 3 of them. Now, especially for my viewers, which tend to watch my videos till the end, I want to compensate that by giving you a huge spoiler when it comes down to the next possible episode, which has something to do with the mounts or the horses, or in other words, it has something to do with this hunt for these traits. And let me give you a spoiler, because I had actually to stop breeding my horses in order to do that in the episode, because I have been doing a lot of breeding. So you do know that you can have up to 2 traits on a horse, yeah? Well, wrong. Well, as I'm going to show you is that these percentages actually differ. So you have to do it in a certain way. Yeah, maybe have a look at this spoiler, 3 traits. And if you have a closer look at the base attributes, in this case, what does this tell you? That the next screenshot, it's a separate one. So you want to chase gold or legendary horses? Well, that's not the best approach. And yeah, now it's your turn to support what supports you back, because it's 100% free for you. All you have to do is just subscribe to this channel. Obviously, watch my videos till the end. Share this channel with your friends, because the game is fantastic. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna catch you in the next awesome episode. Ciao, ciao, ciao.